YouTubers, RosesRed17 here, and welcome back to my video on what I like or don't like about this character from Fairy Tail. In this time, I like to discuss about the fire dragon slayer Natsu Dragneel, also known as the Salamander. So let us dive into this character. Natsu is an interesting character to me. He's funny, charming, a bit of a hothead, and etc, etc. He is the type of character that you would see a lot in most shows. But Natsu is what makes this anime enjoyable to watch. Now, some people do complain that Natsu is annoying, childish, and doesn't really take things seriously. And that reason because we always see him goofing off from time to time. But that doesn't always seem to be the case. Yeah, he likes to start fights and enjoy them just for fun, but when fighting a war that causes death doesn't satisfy him.
I don't think you understand something about me. I mean, I enjoy a good fight. But only when it's a competition. I hate it when it involves death like this one. Giving everything I've got in a fight to see how much I've grown is what I live for. But this time is way different. I'll do anything for us to win. Or else we won't survive this.
You see, that's a good statement. Now, just because someone enjoys a fight doesn't mean they'll become obsessed with it, unless they're a complete psychopath. Now, you can argue that Natsu is called a pyro for destroying buildings, burning down houses, and damaging properties. But at least he hasn't killed anyone, unless they're the enemies that will hurt his friends. No way those guards would have survived that. But he's not the only one. The whole Natsu team destroys stuff during fights. Even a character like Lucy can do some damage. Speaking of fight, I remember reading a character development article one time saying Natsu is a fighting genius, and I kinda believe them. Now I see Natsu rush into fights without thinking it through. He's no strategist, but he's pretty much the idiot in the group. But you know what? I'm okay with that. When Natsu does fight, he does try to figure out his enemy's weakness while also trying to land a hit on him. And him fighting against Cobra was a good example in my opinion. Fighting someone who can read your mind can be tricky. Natsu defeated Cobra by blowing out his eardrums. Yeah, I know what you're gonna say. Natsu didn't intend to do such a thing, he just got lucky. But what if that wasn't the case? What if he wanted to burst out his drums and maybe thought of it at the last minute? There are other scenes when he's fighting against an opponent, and he's always the one to land the first punch. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses, but he never gives up. And not to mention all the power-ups he's been getting throughout the series. I watched Shannon's review of Fairy Tail from Anime America, and if you don't know what Anime America is, there is a link in the description down below. Shannon commented in her video that Natsu is getting too many power-ups in short time, and I agree with her. In fact, I never noticed until she said something about it. I am such a Natsu fan that this kind of problem with Natsu's development throughout the series didn't even cross my mind about the timeless power-ups. All I cared about was Natsu winning the fight and saving the day. But you know what? I didn't care how many power-ups he's gotten within each arc, and knowing that Natsu will save the day, and I still don't care. I enjoy all of Natsu's fights. There are several ones I enjoy. My personal favorite is when he fights against Stinging Road in the Grand Magic Games. And then there's one where Natsu is fighting against Gildar, who is a badass wizard. The lesson that Gildar wanted to teach Natsu about accepting fear and shouldn't be afraid of it. It's not evil, it's the same as happiness, sadness, pain, sorrow. It's an emotion that everyone has, and after Gildar's little lesson about fear, Natsu's character starts to develop. He's using this knowledge to understand the better ways of fighting against an opponent, who could be much more stronger and much more frightening.
Natsu? Don't worry. We've got everything we need to beat this guy right here with us.
There's nothing wrong with fear. After all, how else would we come to know our own weaknesses?
I f***ing love that line. And this also gives Natsu the confidence to use his brain instead of just punching faces. Which he still does, not as often as usual though. And the strange thing about when Natsu is thinking about something, his friends would think that something's wrong with him or he's gonna hurt himself. Funny how they're more worried about him getting a headache than him possibly close to dying for the 100th time. I find it funny that they think that, but at the same time, I just want to roll my eyes at them for even suggesting that. Especially these two. Yeah, telling Natsu Dragneel to use his head, and once he does, they say things like,
I'm just doing some thinking.
You're thinking? I'm not thinking that! Be careful, you might hurt yourself! Jeez, how little do you think of him, Happy?
I don't know what you mean. I guess it must be my turn to forget stuff.
She means acnologia.
Oh, so you can remember his name.
Is that him trying to think?
He really can't tell us, huh?
I gotta be smart. I can't go full on from the beginning.
Is this real life? It's incredible. He actually thought ahead.
Okay, that last scene did make me laugh. But still, they didn't have to think so little of him just because he isn't as smart as the others. And the ideas that Natsu does come up with are not the brightest one, but they are kinda clever. Like on the Galuna Island arc, he destroyed parts of the pyramid so the moon drip wouldn't drop down on the sealed demon. Hey, it worked for a while, but then again, he could have taken down the person doing the ritual. They say that even one person praying, the moon drip will still activate. And during that time, Leon had a couple of followers, so instead of taking all the people out, I would've think that blocking the light off the demon would be the safer bet. Natsu isn't as dumb as people say. For instance, the ice shell that Gray was about to use on Leon and then planned to use it on Deliora, but Natsu stopped him twice because he learned what that spell does. There was another time during the Grand Magic Game arc where he tries to think of a way to stop the future rogue. By getting stronger from eating the flames from the fire dragon Atlas Flame, it made a strong connection with him. There are other scenes where Natsu thinks ahead, but those are rare, and those scenes shows more of his development instead of being just a hothead flame-brain idiot who likes to blow shit up. There are also some times where Natsu tries to find his foster father, Dragneel, the fire dragon king, who abandoned him when Natsu was just a child. And one of those times lead to one of my favorite arcs, which is called the Daphne arc. I know this isn't the best one because it kinda sucks, the villain is forgettable, the plot is lame, and it's just pointless. And I do understand why people think that, so why do I enjoy it? Well, you know Natsu's the hero in most of the arcs and saving the damsel in distress. But what if it was the reverse? What if the hero needs to be saved and the damsel's doing the saving? This is what I get from this arc, and you probably want to know who Daphne is. Well, she's a crazy scientist who obsessed with dragons to create a giant mechanical one using Natsu's magic as a power source. You guys see where I'm going with this, right? This is the first time I see Natsu being a target or a damsel for the first 2 episodes. As you can see, there's only like 3 or 4 episodes in this arc. But you know what? I find this fill arc more enjoyable than the next fill arc, which is the Key to the Story Sky. I just find that one a little boring, even though it has some good scenes. But still, I know the fillers are only there because the manga was catching up to the anime. So they just put in some fillers to stall the anime for the manga to finish until they're ready to be, well, animated. Now for the Daphne arc, I wasn't sure if it was necessary to create this filler since there isn't much episodes including the Rainbow Cherry Blossom, Wendy's first job, and the 24-hour race. But I enjoyed those episodes, and this arc excites me because they did something a little different than what I've seen. And that is Natsu Dragneel, the chosen one, is the damsel in distress, even for like what? 2 episodes? Now in the end, Gaja was the one who freed Natsu from the Dragonite, is what they called. And Natsu gave Daphne the punishment she deserved. The only thing I didn't like from this arc was that Natsu made a promise and forgets about it years later. And I know Natsu is forgettable at some things, like he forgets the person's name he's defeated before, and he forgets the small little things like he needs to be reminded. But how could someone forget an entire town with shadowy people and eggs that are found around the area? Well, according to Natsu, he thought it was all a dream and that's why he forgot. Natsu, I love you, but you shouldn't make promises that you're going to forget. Okay, I wouldn't say he broke that promise, considering he did save the villagers from the spell that Daphne cast upon them. So Natsu did keep his promise, it just took him a little long to fulfill it. And if Gray didn't follow him at that time, then I guess the town would have been silenced forever until someone else came along. I do have to say that this arc does give Natsu some character development before we move on to the next one, which is the Edalist, and then one of my favorite arcs, the Tenro Island, where Natsu meets the Black Wizard Zera for the first time. This is where it gets interesting on Natsu's part. This person that the Dragon Slayer has never seen before knows who Natsu is, but Natsu doesn't know who this person is.
Natsu.
You've grown so much. I've missed you, Natsu.
Tell me who you are or I'll hit harder!
You see, nothing's changed, has it? You still can't break me.
So I remember watching the anime for the first time, and when I got to this arc, I wanted to learn more about the connection between Natsu and Zera. And I learned that the two of them are brothers, and Natsu is Zera's strongest demon that he created 400 years ago. END. Those of you who don't know, Zeref is an immoral who's cursed by a god, and everything he loves is doomed to die, and because of this curse, Zeref's been wanting to be killed. He created demons that could end his life, but after they failed, Zeref created Inferious Natsu Dragneel, and also Zeref's brother that he brought back to life. Now, I'm going to go into the spoil territory. For those of you who haven't read the manga yet, you can skip this part to avoid spoilers. The topic I want to talk about here is Natsu and Zera's backstory and their parents. Who are they? What are their names? Where did they live before they were killed by dragons along with Natsu? Now here's where it gets confusing for me. The parents are a mystery. We don't even get their names. I mean, think about it. We get the names of the parents from the other characters. Lucy's parents are Jude and Layla. Gray's are Silver and Mika. Ursa's mother is Irene. And as for her father, we don't get a name. But Natsu is the main character, and the only parent we know is Igneel, who is his foster father. Now I know these two aren't as important as Igneel is, but I would like to see some backstory of them. And since the manga has ended, there's still the 100-year quest, so I still got my hopes up. Igneel suddenly disappeared one day, and Natsu's been searching him for years, but it turns out that the dragon was inside Natsu the whole time, because he and the other dragons cast a spell on the dragon slayers. The dragon lived inside Natsu and the others, so they wouldn't transfer into dragons themselves, which is not a good thing, and were chosen to defeat a dragon named Acnologia, who is also a dragon slayer who turned into a dragon by bathing in their blood. Scary, don't you think? But in the end, all the Dragon Slayers fight against Acnologia and defeat him by Natsu's all-elemental power-up, and deliver the final blow with the help of his friends, of course. Natsu is a caring person. He cheers them up when they're sad or depressed, especially with the one who has the most emotional character in the series. When Lucy is sad about something like losing a friend or a family member, Natsu is always the one that always gets her to smile again. Lucy does the same for him, well, sort of. The only time that Lucy has ever done for Natsu was she saved him from Brain 2 spell in the filler arc Key to Story Sky by using Nightmare spell to free Natsu. Then in the Lullaby arc, I see her carrying Natsu on her back after his motion sickness kicked in. That blonde is pretty strong for carrying a full-grown male. But other than that, I don't see Lucy cheering Natsu up when he is depressed or sad. Most of the time she's not even around, and during the time when Igneel was killed right in front of him and watched him vanish. This is actually one of the scenes where I wish Lucy was there to calm him down and want to end his pain. But then again, maybe she doesn't need to. The last dying words were Igneel telling Natsu to stay strong and keep fighting for the future, which is one of my favorite scenes. However, even though Lucy wasn't there with Natsu during one of his tragic and painful moments, she stayed by Natsu's side with the respectful connection and reliability she has with them is what makes these two a perfect couple. Natsu's the one that Lucy relies on, and Natsu does the same thing. And there are moments in the manga where she fights for Natsu and do everything she can to protect him. The anime, however, Natsu seems to be doing the cheering up when Lucy is in depression. But when Natsu is sad or upset about something, Lucy doesn't do much for Natsu in his time of need. Okay, maybe during a time in the Grand Magic Games when she told Natsu that she believed in him as she always had. And that seemed to give Natsu more confidence in himself and also gives him the strength to win. Most of the time when these two are on the same room, they fight well together. He trusts her, she trusts him, and I know this is what makes Nalu a strong pairing. Natsu Dragneel is my all-time favorite character, and I find it funny that I paired it up with my least favorite in the show. But these two have such a strong connection. How can I not pair them together? Not to mention, they sometimes do act like a couple. They argue, they complain, they give each other smiles, they fight. Lucy scolds Natsu for breaking stuff. Okay, everybody scolds him for that. But the two are just so precious together, and sometimes wish they would just kiss already. But I still have my hopes since there's the 100-year quest manga still going. What I like about Natsu Dragneel is mostly what most of the fans like about him. So what are the things that I don't like about him? Well, like I said before, during the Daphne arc, Natsu can be forgetful to some things, but there are mostly minor stuff like the enemies he fought or forgets the person's name. Like the time he forgot Lucy's name and called her Luigi after the first time they met. Now I don't get mad at Natsu for forgetting things like that, I just facepalm my forehead. But for some of them, I just chuckled. Being forgettable is a problem, but not as troubling as his one weakness, which is his motion sickness. I just hate to see Natsu all weak and useless when it comes to vehicles. But the thing is, Natsu doesn't have a problem riding on animals because he knows they are living creatures, and therefore he doesn't think of them as moving, non-living subjects. If you want to travel with Natsu and don't want to deal with him moping and whining, just give him a horse to ride. If you need to go on a ship, give him one of those flying giant birds. He'll be fine. I find it fascinating that all the Dragon Slayers have the same weakness, which I think is funny. It's to show that Natsu isn't alone with it and that everything that isn't alive triggers this motion sickness. Even Wendy started to have the same problem and she never had trouble with it before until after the Avatar arc. Natsu's flaws doesn't bother me that much, but I'm still annoyed by it. And I think the most disappointing I got from him is that him and Happy decided to leave the guild for a year to train, but what he didn't expect that the guild disbanded the day after they left. He comes back and Fairy Tail is gone. Lucy's angry with Natsu for leaving her without saying a word, but instead he leaves her a note saying what he's doing, how long he's gonna be gone. But he did return as he promised and plans on getting the guild back together. I know Natsu made a dick move for leaving suddenly, but I can understand why he did it. We all know Natsu isn't the brightest in the group, and we have to guess he would have done something like this. I've seen Natsu run his own plenty of times without saying anything, and returns afterwards, so this is really no different. I kinda expect him to do something like this, but at least he told somebody, just not face to face. Natsu is the heart of Fairy Tail. Whenever someone is feeling down, he's the one that cheers them up. He even befriends the enemy and made them to allies. But Natsu's not the only heart in Fairy Tail. Lucy also has a role. Even though I did mention a million times that she isn't my favorite. But what both her and Natsu have is a bond that keeps the family together. I love Nalu and I always will. They're just so great together. I'm going to have to say it. Nalu is the heart and soul of Fairy Tail. Well, you guys, thank you for watching this video, and don't forget to subscribe, and please leave a comment down below about your thoughts on this video. Roosevelt17 out.